What brings the worst out in people? Divorce proceedings. Especially with kids involved. It can turn a couple of average people into monsters. Marriage Story captures this extremely well. By the end of it, I just hated lawyers. And it isn't even an exaggeration of what really happens. I have a co-worker who is a great, fun, respectful person who told me her divorce proceedings went very similarly to what happened in the film. They both agreed to go on with the divorce without getting lawyers involved, but then started getting frustrated with each other, and it eventually evolved into bickering from both sides. This, in turn, led to them getting anxiety from talking to each other and getting lawyers, which led to more animosity. It has been 4 years and they're only now starting to get on better terms than they were when the divorce was finalized. The word free in a retail or restaurant type of setting. People will trample one another, take all of the items so there aren't any for others, gorge themselves, try to sneak food out with them. It's disgusting. I was going to say that. The first manager who comped product due to poor service really screwed it up for everyone. Now I have to listen to someone who wants something for free because the box has a dent in it. There was a clinic in my city that wanted to try the Robin Hood style service where they would charge well-off patients but treat the poor for free. This ended up backfiring as they got flooded with poor patients and even those who could afford treatment pretending to not be able to. They closed down and presumably moved location within a year. Edit, third world country with a good portion of lower income families, lazy enforcement of laws, and editing of citizens. I mean, of course that's not going to work. Because very rarely are people going to choose to pay for something if they don't have to. And what you can afford is relative. When a loved one dies, people get really, really weird in a bad way about money and stuff. I know a bunch of people who had relatives who flat out stole money and valuables after the death of a family member. It's crazy. My own family has a permanent rift because when my grandmother died, 2 of the 5 siblings cleaned out her accounts. Hell, they don't even have to be dead. When my great-grandmother moved from her apartment to a nursing home, some of her children and grandkids helped her pack up her apartment, by which I mean it was a full-on feeding frenzy of theft. She was a 87-year-old woman who had been widowed for about 50 years at that point, so she certainly wasn't wealthy, but some of those people would have ripped down the wallpaper if they thought they could have sold it. I always like the HALT rule. If you're feeling hungry, angry, late or tired, then it's likely things you say or do will come off worse than you intend. Edit. Lots of replies about the L being lonely. That works too. Turns out learning acronyms differently brings out the worst in some people too. One of my favorite quotes that is related to this: if you think everyone hates you, you probably need to sleep. If you think you hate everyone, you probably need to eat. I feel like this is how I got fat. Weddings. #X200B, my father is a minister. He says he would rather help with a funeral over a wedding any day. Weddings leave people with a sense of extreme desperation to achieve perfection. Stress. Most of us are capable of being decent human beings who make a positive contribution to society. You add stress into the mix and people start to crack. Financial stress, relationship stress, work stress, it doesn't matter. When our focus is pulled into simply surviving and staying afloat, our ability to empathize or provide support to others greatly diminishes. I think this is tied in with the low morale we are all experiencing right now. We're all unbelievably stressed. I've seen some of the nicest people completely snap and act shockingly because they just can't take the pressure anymore. Add lack of sleep and you get a human grenade. You don't know where or how, but they're going to go off. Exactly, and stress leads to insomnia or nightmares for many, so it's a circle. You sleep less, have no energy, more stress, even less sleep, and so until one snaps and it's a disaster. Traffic. Inheritances. I've seen both my family and friends' families absolutely ripped apart after someone dies, and another family member doesn't feel they've received their share, or that the will was unfair, or that property mysteriously goes missing before the estate is settled. Awful, awful stuff. I think the worst is my friend's dad and his sister haven't spoken for over 30 years due to a squabble over their mother's will. 30 years. The kicker is that they're both quite well off on their own. Friend's dad is a very, very successful trial lawyer, and friend's aunt married a successful doctor. This wasn't money either of them ever actually needed, but they've not had a relationship for decades because of it. Frown. Hunger can make people do things they never thought they were capable of doing. It can drive your mind out of control. This is why the food bank is my favorite charity to give to. I've never experienced true food insecurity, but I've been moderately hungry from time to time and notice how terrible everything becomes from your mood to the ability to function. How can anyone hope to improve their situation in life with that kind of constant debuff? I joked as a child once when all we had in the fridge and pantry were condiments, that I called dibs on the steak sauce. I am always thankful for how much my parents did and do with so little. I can't imagine having steak sauce. It's so weird the things you think about and just roll with when really that's all you can do. When I was in elementary school they didn't have school lunches. I kept the same smashed cotto salami sandwich in my desk for the week because I didn't want anyone to know I didn't have lunch. Now my kid stands in a kitchen full of food and complains there is nothing to eat. Drives me bonkers, but also what a sense of relief that this is the tragedy for them. Yep. I never really thought of us as food insecure, no one ever said you can't eat that, but often dinner for 10 was a dozen eggs and french fries, or 2 cans of corned beef hash, or pancakes. I didn't eat breakfast once I realized that it made it easier to skip lunch. I would have fried hard rolls with jelly, or coffee until I saved up enough for grilled cheese. Desperation. Unprocessed trauma from childhood. As someone that is struggling with mental health, I'm only now beginning to understand why I do a lot of what I do. When our needs for love and acceptance aren't met, we seek out soothing behaviors that numb the pain. It's really easy to end up in midlife with no real idea what it means to be happy and feeling no connection to others. As you begin to work on your issues, you find that the soothing behaviors are no longer as soothing because you know why you're doing it. So, you're stuck with the emptiness that you've always felt and no way to get out of the feeling. I was looking for this answer. When something triggers you and reminds you of past trauma, that brings out the absolute worst in you, because you panic and it's hard to control. I just feel permanently triggered. My brain is hypervigilante and doesn't know how to relax. The result is that I'm unable to relate to people on a higher functioning social level. It's hard to enjoy small talk when your brain is scanning for tigers. The resulting social failures only reinforce the feeling of isolation. I'm unable to relate to people on a higher functioning social level. Hey Uskanoob38, I'm not a therapist, and it might sound a little weird, but if you want to practice small talk with me, I would be happy to exchange messages anonymously and without any pressure of timing or anything. I understand the feeling of being constantly in defense mode like ninjas are going to jump out of every bird that moves. If typing to someone is helpful, I'm around. Hope you are doing well. When you were told to wait 20 minutes and it's now been 21 minutes and you're still waiting. If I ever have to give a wait time, I usually overestimate the time. They will be happy if it takes less time but pissed if it's 1 minute more than what was quoted. I worked in customer service jobs for years and would also do this. We were trained to underpromise then overdeliver. Anonymity. Putting a mask on, being on the internet, or otherwise concealing one's identity. People do some very ducked up things when they know they won't be held accountable. This reminds me of when Instagram introduced the questions sticker to the stories part of the app in 2018. People thought they could ask questions anonymously, but the app shows you who asked the question. I'd like to think that hundreds of friendships were broken that week when the feature was implemented. Edit, 2018, not 1018. People thought they could ask questions anonymously. That was a rude awakening for a lot of people, I think. I remember a radio host in my city had to make an Instagram story stating that the feature is not anonymous and that he could see the rude and hateful messages people were sending, or the very personal ones asking about exes and family members. He went on to say that people need to watch what they say online, cause sometimes when you think you're being anonymous, you aren't. Cause sometimes when you think you're being anonymous, you aren't. You're never anonymous online. Not really. Yes, you are David. I'm sorry David, I'm afraid I can't delete that. Some good answers here, to which I'll add, giving things away for free. I've had the surreal experience of working at a Long Island tennis tournament attended by generally very wealthy people. They arrived in top-end luxury cars or limos, wearing designer clothes, and watches worth more than my car. I was tasked with opening a case of some sort of little branded tchotchke, like cheap pens, keychains, etc., and handing them out to the attendees as they walked the sponsor areas. People went berserk, shoving each other, lunging across the table, thank cripes there was a table, to grab stuff from my hand, missing key tennis matches to lurk by our tent, awaiting the next crap dispersal. Wow. I've seen this type of thing happen many other times too, with people going to great lengths just to get some pittance of which they have no need. Edit, wow, lots of you have seen this phenomenon in action. Thanks for the discussion. To clarify, I picked on the rich Long Islanders and many pointed out that the rich are that way because they go after free stuff. But it happens anywhere the giveaways happen, poor, average, and rich alike behave like this. And yeah, I can't overlook an opportunity to use tchotchke in conversation. There was a line in Crazy Rich Asians, no one loves free stuff more than rich people. I was floored how in the book all these extremely wealthy women who flew to Paris on a private jet that had a state-of-the-art yoga studio inside of it, wanted to take all of the hotel freebies, bottled water and cook ramen in their hotel room lol. Or when Astrid was bidding for those scrolls but whipped out a stack of coupons at the grocery store lol.